Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today what I'm going to do is do my first quarterly wrap up, and I wanted to do it in a sit down style video, but I also wanted to do some kind of ranking system, so I decided that I wanted to do bracket. So tier bracket ranking. I don't know what the official name for it is. I've seen different variations. Some people call it tournament brackets. Some people call it tier brackets, but you will get the gist of it once I start. So I have read, let's see, I want to say 24 books. Actually, I think I read 26 and I left out 2 books so that it could be a little more snug in the tier brackets. Ideally, I should have had 32 books to make this really work, but we made it work regardless. So I left out 2 books that I just knew objectively were my least favorite, so I just didn't want to put them in at all, because if I already know, then I'm just wasting time. So that is The Vacationers by Emma Straub and Mad About You by Barry McFarlane. So other than that, I've read 24 books so far, well, in the first quarter, and I just kind of put them against each other. Some I did in the order of reading them, so I put the ones that I read after each other in the same bracket, and I just kind of went like that. But there was one month in specific in February when I had 3 5-star reads and a lot of like really highly rated and highly loved books, so I kind of spread those out a little more sporadically. So needless to say, today we are tier ranking, and I'm really excited. I have already done the tier ranking, but we're just going to discuss.
Round 1. Fight!
The first tier that I have, or I guess the first bracket that I have, is The Winners by Frederick Backman and Four Aunties and a Wedding by Jessie Q. Sutanto. And those 2 books, I think, are the first 2 books that I finished this year. And The Winners is the 3rd book in the Beartown series, which is my favorite series of all time. And I have been making my way through it since 2021. So I'm like very highly attached to this book, and there are very few things that I would have chosen over this if pitted against it. So it didn't really matter to me what I put in this bracket with it. So I put Four Aunties and a Wedding, and that is a cozy mystery that is the follow-up for Dial A for Aunties, which I read I think maybe 4 years ago, and I liked this book, but it was very predictable, pretty average, and I did have some qualms with it. So the easy answer here was The Winners by Frederick Backman. In the next bracket, we have The Wedding Party by L.R. Jones, which is a murder mystery on a joint bachelor/bachelorette weekend situation. And then Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young, which I absolutely loved. And this was also very easy. I like a murder mystery, and I think I rated The Wedding Party 3.75/4. I listened to the audiobook and I thought it was fun, but Out on a Limb was an absolute 5-star. It was actually the only 5-star that I had in January, because The Winners didn't, I had some issues with The Winners as well. So that was the only book in the Beartown series that didn't get 5 stars for me. So yeah, Out on a Limb was the easy answer there. Then we have Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom and The Paris Library. I can't remember the author's name and I can't see it in this picture, but I absolutely loved both of these books. So this was kind of a hard one, but not really, because The Paris Library is one that has really stuck with me, and I didn't expect it to stick with me so much. I think at the time that I read it, I gave it 4 stars, and I enjoyed my reading experience. I read it really quickly and I was very immersed in the story while I was reading it. But I don't know, I think maybe I wanted more or something in the moment, but it has stuck with me. I have thought about it very often since reading it, so maybe it is more of a 4.25, 4.5 type of read. And put it against Tuesdays with Morrie, I had some issues where I did just feel like it was over preachy, and the wisdom that was being given to us did feel very repetitive in some ways. So could it have been a short story or like an essay? Definitely. So my easy answer here is the Paris Library. I think the first set of brackets was definitely very easy, at least for me. So the next bracket we have here is Anna Takes Manhattan by, oh my gosh, I can't remember her name either, and Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. This is the first and only book I've ever read by Adrienne Young, and I know that she has way more popular books than this, and I definitely want to get into them because I really enjoy Sky in the Deep. And this one is it's classified as a young adult fantasy. I don't know how far we get into the fantasy. I don't remember there being magic at all, but there is like a fantastical world system in terms of like their gods and religion. So, and it is also slightly Viking-esque. So I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 5 stars. I have been really flip-flopping on my rating for this. I think it's more like 4.5. It hasn't stuck with me as much as I thought that it would, but I really loved it when I read it, and I loved the romance. I think if this had been a series, it may have been a 5-star series. Even if it was a duology, I just don't think I got enough in that one book. Anna Takes Manhattan was a chaotic, insane trip that I loved almost every second of. I kind of hated it at the beginning because it had no editing. Like, you could tell that the publishers did not care about this book, and there were a lot of typos, a lot of inconsistency in the writing, but eventually I kind of just got over it and I read it. I had a great time. I made my mom read it. She loved it. So it was just funny. It was chaotic. Don't go into this thinking that it is anything other than absolutely insane and chaotic, because she is like very type A, by the book, and then one day she just decides to throw caution into the wind and have 3 or 4 boyfriends, none of them knowing about each other, and all fulfilling a different purpose in her life. So one is romantic, one is rich, one is artistic, one is funny kind of vibe. It was crazy, but it was a fun time. However, Sky in the Deep is the winner in this bracket. Then we're going on to one that I have already pitted against each other in my Valentine's Day vlog, which is the X-Dog and Just for the Summer. I pitted these against each other because I read them very close together, or maybe simultaneously, because the X-Dog was my treadmill book at the time. So I read both of them simultaneously, and I couldn't help but compare them while I was reading them simultaneously, and I just really loved the X-Dog. I don't know. I thought it was funny and fun, and I think I'm definitely more forgiving with a rom-com, a straight-up rom-com, than a romance that is also trying to be very emotional and deep but doesn't hit the emotional mark. I'm less forgiving with something like that than a rom-com, and the X-Dog was just a straight-up rom-com. I had so much fun, and it didn't try to do too much or be too much, and I just really loved that. And I would say that in terms of characters, I definitely loved the characters in Just for the Summer more, but in terms of the overall story, I loved the X-Dog. So the X-Dog wins in that bracket. And then my last bracket that I have on this side is No Place Left to Hide by Megan Neely and The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. So this one is also very easy. I gave No Place Left to Hide, which is a young adult mystery / thriller. I gave that 3 stars. It could probably be more, like 3.5. I really enjoyed it, and I loved following our main character. I felt like the stakes were high and the action sequences and the moments of like real imminent danger were really well written. So I would definitely read from Megan Lely again. I just didn't like the ending. And if I don't like the ending of a mystery / thriller, that kind of automatically bumps it down some notches. So The British Kingdom was a 5-star read, and it was, I want to say, my second favorite book of the month of February, when I had read a lot of really, really good books. So that's saying a lot. So that's what we have for this side of the brackets. Now we move on to like February / March reads. This first bracket is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang and The Night the River Wept by Lo Patrick, which is a book I never heard of, and I just picked it up in the bookstore one day and I ended up really, really loving it. It's a literary fiction / mystery type of story about a stay-at-home wife who has just experienced the loss of a child and is dealing with a lot of infertility, and she kind of just wants to find a purpose, and so she decides to go and volunteer at the local police station, and then she finds herself intertwined and intrigued with this unsolved mystery, and it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. I loved following the stream of consciousness of our main character. She is so interesting, and I don't know, I thought that was a standout of the book, as well as Lo Patrick's writing. I really enjoyed the writing style and the way that the mystery was woven into the story. Yellowface, on the other hand, I liked it. I gave that one 4 stars as well. These are 2 4-star books, but in 2 kind of different calibers, because I think I gave Yellowface 4 stars because I thought it was well done, not because I really, really enjoyed it. It kept me turning the page, obviously, because, sorry. Because Yellowface follows this character who basically steals a manuscript from her dead friend, which was insane of her. And so I think my interest in this one definitely had a lot to do with just waiting for the ball to drop and waiting for someone to catch her and for her to face the consequences of her actions. So they were both good and interesting, but The Night the River Wept won in this one for me. Then we have A Man Called Uwe and Project Hail Mary. This one is easy because I gave Project Hail Mary 4 stars and I gave A Man Called Uwe 5 stars. I gave Project Hail Mary 4 stars because I think eventually I became unattached. I really loved the ending, and there were bits and pieces of it throughout that I loved. But Project Hail Mary was an audiobook that I was listening to for possibly over a year. And I think having dragged it out so much, I didn't really have that much of an attachment to the story, but I still enjoyed it. A Man Called Uwe, I just loved it. Frederick Bachman is one of my favorite authors ever. And yeah, I liked it a lot, and I just loved all of the characters. I felt so connected and attached, and I felt like I was part of the community, and it was such a sweet story. So that's what we have there. Then we have Sea of Tranquility by, I know her name, I don't want to, something St. John Mandel. Oh yeah, Emily. Okay, yeah, Emily. Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel, and The Right Move by, what is her name? Definitely don't know it. So both books I really enjoyed. This was also kind of a easy sweep for me because I just loved Sea of Tranquility, and I think it's one that I also love. The more that I think about it and the more that time passes, I realize that I loved it more, and it had an impact on me in that I haven't really read a lot of books like it, and so as soon as I was done with it, I was like searching for that high and that feeling that I got with this book and how it kind of all tied together perfectly with a bow at the end and had something to say. So I really, really enjoyed this one, and the right move was fun, and Ryan Shea is great. I see the hype, and I think their romance was really, really cute, but it was not a god tier romance for me. So yeah, I gave Sea of Tranquility 4.75, and I think I gave The Right Move 4 stars. So Sea of Tranquility is even in this bracket. Then we have Beg, Borrow, Steal versus The Traitor Queen. So I think for me, I didn't love The Traitor Queen as much as I loved The Bridge Kingdom, which I know is an unpopular opinion, but I don't know. I've only seen one person review it, so I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but I loved Beg, Borrow, Steal. I think it has been my only 6-star read of the year, so not to spoil the entire video but I really, really loved this book as a rom-com, and I just thought that the banter and the chemistry was so good, and this to me exemplifies to be loved is to be known. I just feel like they know each other so well. Knowing how to push someone's buttons is underrated, and I'm recognizing in myself that is something that I really, really love in romance, when the two characters just have history and they know each other, so they know how to push each other's buttons. It is evident in my god tier rom-com, which is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel, and in this one, which I don't know. I've said online already that I feel like it dethroned You Deserve Each Other. I don't know if that's quite true, but I think about this story every single day. Genuinely, I think about that scene where they're mocking that one scene in her novel every single day. So I just think, I know a lot of people have problems with this book because they expect Sarah Hogel not to have spice. This is my first Sarah Hogel book that I've ever read, so I think I went into with the expectation that this was just going to be a rom-com. If it had spice, if it didn't really matter to me. So I just went in with kind of regular expectations. I was interested in the synopsis, and I got what I wanted from it. I thought it was funny, it was fast-paced, and the community was sweet. Okay, my camera died, but in case it wasn't clear, Beg, Borrow, Steal won out in that category. So then I moved on to Viola Davis Viola Davis's memoir Finding Me versus A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini, which I read in my Predicting My Ratings reading vlog, and I didn't love it. I gave that one 3.5 stars, which was so disappointing because it's a book that has been on my radar for so many years, and it's one that I always thought I would really love and would really impact me, and I just didn't feel any type of connection to the story or to the writing, and that was really disappointing. But it is what it is. You can't win them all, so it doesn't really bother me that I hated it. Well, not hated, that I didn't really love it, but I did love Finding Me by Viola Davis. I love her. I love so many of the shows and the movies that I have seen her in, and finding out more about her story just left me in awe of her, and her resilience and her perseverance and her dedication to her craft. And I don't know, I just felt so, there were times where I could have felt sorry for her, and I never did, because I have just been so inspired by her. And it was just, I don't read a lot of memoirs, but it was such a nice experience to learn about somebody that I see on TV, and I love How to Get Away with Murder. Me through my first year or 2 of law school, and she feels like a very comforting celebrity to me. I'm not really into celebrities like that, but I just love her. And so, I don't know, just reading about her story made me feel so much awe and so much inspiration, and I definitely shed multiple tears. I was like sobbing at the end of it, and this is the only book that I have cried for this year since The Winners in January. So yeah, it was a great time. That one is definitely the winner in this category. And then my last bracket, we have Betting on You, which I read back in January. And If We Were Villains, I think I gave Betting on You maybe 3.75, maybe 3.5, I can't remember. And I gave If We Were Villains 4.5. So obviously this is an uneven match. I really couldn't match everybody evenly. However, I really loved If We Were Villains, and I think it was very close to a 5-star. I also read this in my predicting ratings vlog, and I think if the mystery wasn't so obvious, it would have been an easy 5 stars. I loved the writing, I loved the Shakespeare of it all, and the theatre, and the blurred lines of morality, and who these characters were on and off stage, and if there is ever a difference, and like I don't know, following their like complete obsession was just so interesting to me, and the characters were so clear and distinct and well fleshed out, which I think is really hard to do with such a huge cast of characters, plus them playing characters on stage. It was a really good reading experience, I would say. And yeah, I was willing to forgive the mystery being so obvious and falling flat at the end, because I just felt like this book had a lot more to offer, and I got a lot more out of it than I would usually get with a mystery slash thriller. Because in a regular genre mystery thriller, that's all there is. It's just the mystery that we're following and trying to figure out. And in this book, I think it was more dark academia and literary fiction than anything. I think the mystery was just kind of a subplot, even though it carried the story. It wasn't, I don't think, the main focus of it. So it really didn't bother me, and I couldn't rate it any less than 4.5 just because of how much I enjoyed all of the other elements of it. So yeah, with Betting on You by Lynn Painter, however, it was a fun, fast time, as all of her books are, but I find myself having problems with her writing since Better Than the Movies. I really loved that one. I gave that one 5 stars. I thought it was so cute, but in this one, I think, and I was talking before I recognized that my battery was dead, and I said that I feel like her writing is very much targeted now to like book talk, and I just don't like that. I don't like when you could feel it and see it in a book that people are like catering to a specific type of social media. Like I don't know how to explain it, but I do feel like her writing sometimes is like if Just Girly Things, you all remember that, Just Girly Things on Tumblr and like I guess Twitter and stuff, that's her writing is sometimes Just Girly Things if it had a TikTok. And I just, something about it just irks me and cringes me. I just didn't, there were a lot of times where I didn't like it. I literally started highlighting the things that were cringing me out. So yeah, If We Were Villains is the winner in this bracket. So now we're on to round 2.
Round 2. Fight!
This round should be a lot easier. I don't have to explain the books anymore, and I'm just going to tell you which books I choose between the two. We do have an uneven number, as I explained in the intro, so I think, oh no, it should be fine until the very end. So The Winners versus Out on a Limb. This one was honestly a lot harder than I thought it would be, just because The Winners is a part of something that actually I would never put anything else above. But the Winners itself, objectively by itself, and I had quite a few qualms with it. I did. Out on a Limb, I thought this was a perfect romance, like an emotional romance. I thought this was very near perfect. I really, really loved it, and so I chose Out on a Limb here, which I don't regret, but I do recognize that it is a really hard decision to make. Regardless, The Winners is definitely up in my top 10 of the 8 that I've read so far. So anyway, then we had The Paris Library and Sky in the Deep. Honestly, this one I question. If I did have the energy to remake this board, I would have chosen The Paris Library over Sky in the Deep. I think The Paris Library is one that sometimes I forget how much I really loved the writing style and the storyline. And when I was reading A Thousand Splendid Suns, which is also historical fiction, I found myself comparing them and like talking about The Paris Library and what I think that author did so well with the genre, as opposed to A Thousand Splendid Suns. And so I think right now it's just on my mind and I love it, but I'm sticking to my guns. We have already done this entire tournament bracket, so we can't go back. But I just wanted to say that because I really love The Paris Library and I do highly, highly recommend it. So Sky in the Deep is what I chose for this one. And then the X-Talk versus The Bridge Kingdom. The Bridge Kingdom is definitely the clear winner. I think I gave the X-Talk 4.25 and I gave The Bridge Kingdom a 5-star, and I am literally obsessed with the series. I took a break after the first duology because I've just been in a huge fantasy mood and I wanted to read another fantasy. So I'm currently reading, which is insane of me, but the Shadowhunters universe. I just started it maybe 2 days ago, so yeah. Anyway, on to the next side, we have The Night the River Wept versus A Man Called Ove. This was an unfortunate match. I just can't choose many things over A Man Called Ove. So A Man Called Ove won out there. And then we have Sea of Tranquility versus Beg, Borrow, Steal. Beg, Borrow, Steal. Then we have Finding Me versus FAO Villains. This one was also very hard to choose because, as I said, I really love both of these books, but Finding Me just did it for me, to be honest. I felt really, really connected. I loved listening to the audiobook and hearing Viola Davis talk about her life story and all the things that she's been through and how she has risen above a lot of things that she has faced in her life, and how she has, like, how her career has blossomed and her family life and all of those things. I don't know, it was just, there were so many little nuances to this story that made me really, really emotional. So I would say Finding Me. Now we're on to round 3.
Round 3. Fight!
So we have, for round 3, our first round is Out on a Limb versus Sky in the Deep. Out on a Limb wins there. Out on a Limb was a 5-star read that I don't think about that often, to be honest, but one that I do know I really, really enjoyed and I kind of devoured in like 2 days. So I don't really have a choice there. And then because we have an uneven number, The Bridge Kingdom has no competitors, but that's fine by me because it would have won regardless, unless it was... You thought I was going to spoil the ending? No. Anyway, then on the next side we have A Man Called Ove versus Beg, Borrow, Steal. Beg, Borrow, Steal won out versus A Man Called Ove, just because That's my girl. That is just my girl. I don't have anything else to say. And then we have Finding Me, that has no competitor, which is quite fine by me. So then we're on to round 4 and our final round, which is, oh no, not our final round yet. So we're on to round 4.
Round 4. Fight!
Out on a Limb versus The Bridge Kingdom. This one was very, very easy. And they were both 5-star reads, but Out on a Limb was my favorite read of January. And I think it was my second favorite, or maybe third favorite of February. But the reading months were so different. February was just such an exceptionally good reading month that it just didn't have a choice. But Out on a Limb could have easily been a third favorite in another month, you know. I do think if it was read in February, it would have been my 4th favorite, regardless of it being a 5-star. So this one definitely puts like ratings in perspectives, but yeah, The Bridge Kingdom definitely wins out over Out on a Limb. And I do think that having continued with the series, I'm falling more in love with it. So I'm feeling more attached to the characters in the world. So yeah. And then Beg, Borrow, Steal versus my girl Viola. Oh my god, my 2 girls pitted against each other makes me sick to my stomach. However, I just have a clear path at this point. If you can't see where we're going, you're not paying attention. Beg, Borrow, Steal. So this one was actually hard. It was harder than I thought, which is weird because obviously I had already pitted them against each other. In my February reading wrap up, I ranked my books. So I did my least favorite to my favorite book of the month, and Beg, Borrow, Steal was the number 1 book that month, which means it had to beat out The Bridge Kingdom, which I also read in February. So having them pit against each other here really should not have been hard, but it was. And so honestly, I had to question myself if there's like some internalized misogyny where I was like, no, your number 1 read can't just be a random rom-com when you've read so many other like standard literary works. And I was like, I really had to question myself. I was like, am I sexist? What is wrong with that? If that was the book that you enjoyed the most out of the year, it should be your favorite and you shouldn't question it. So, but aside from my questioning my internalized misogyny, it was hard because I just really, really loved The Bridge Kingdom, and with further context of where the story may continue to go, because I have since read the second book, I just feel so much more connected. So it did kind of bump up a little bit, but it just didn't beat Beg, Borrow, Steal. I loved that book, and I don't know if it's just because I read it at the perfect time and it just is my kind of quintessential perfect rom-com read, as I explained earlier, like with not necessarily pranks, but like, I don't know, pushing each other's buttons. It feels very relationship. Like, you know, sometimes you just want to annoy your significant other just because that's how you show love, or like bite him or do something, you know, like that to me, those kinds of dynamics just feel so much more like long-term love, as opposed to just like falling in love because this person is so nice and whatever, you know. I don't know, but Beg, Borrow, Steal is my number 1 book that I've read so far this year, and I don't know, I love it. It's so good. I could definitely reread that right now, and I would love it just as much. So yeah, I really loved it, and that's all we have for today's video. This is only part 1 of my Q1 breakdown, but part 2 will be kind of more in-depth reviews of some of my favorite books that you have obviously seen featured here in this video. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you agree with my rankings, because I think ranking is fun because it is so personal, and it's so, and not just ranking but reading in general. Like, everybody has such a different and unique experience with books that they love or hate or have issues with and find perfect. I have seen so many mixed reviews of Beg, Borrow, Steal, and I have never read any of the other books in the series, so I know that some of the mixed reviews come with context of, oh, the other books are better, oh, there shouldn't be spice, blah 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 blah. But for me, I just went in because the trope sounded fun and I had a really good time. So all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.